Hello and welcome to the Bundesliga Show, the Thursday evening predictions edition for Matchweek 20 upcoming. And as you could see, I'm joined once again by Peter Weiss over there. How are you doing, Peter?
Well, I'm sending warm wishes across the pond for my stricken colleague, Mark Roland Broadhurst. I'm very, very sorry to hear that you've been under the weather. But as always, it's a pleasure to speak with you and give some predictions for the world's best footballing beat. Absolutely.
Yeah, without doubt. It's great to be reunited. Obviously, the last show we did was that brilliant watch-along, wasn't it? The Senegal versus Morocco final of the AFCON. That was a hell of an evening, that was. And my voice was in a much better fettle as well at that time, unfortunately. So, yeah, let's have a look then. So, yeah, remember, guys, to comment in your results of what you think the matches are going to be this weekend. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoy what we do here on the show. We're also partnered by the fantastic Covert Footy Trips, the brilliant travel company run by Rich over in Norwich. And we're also sponsored by Bully News as well. Check out bullynews.com for that. So, yeah, without further ado, let's crack on, Peter. So, yeah, we start off on Friday evening this weekend with, an interesting looking fixture, really. We've got FC Koeln versus Wolfsburg, haven't we? So, go on, Peter. I'll let you fly us out on this one.
Well, one hopes, of course, that we'll get 6 goals, just as we did in the Hinrunde. Do you happen to remember that match when Jakob Kaminski, yes, the Wolfsburg loanee, actually scored the latest extra-time goal in Bundesliga history? Not entirely sure that record means much, given how injury time functions these days. But in any event, we do have, of course, once again, Kaminski projected to start against his old club. What's going on with Wolfsburg now is most disconcerting. They, of course, lost to Mainz last week. Daniel Bauer said that was the worst result of his tenure. And I'm inclined to believe that he was correct. Wolfsburg continue to have some great struggle in the central defensive area, as do Koeln. Koeln, of course, cannot stop their central defenders from getting injured. Simpson Hughes, Englishman, has already been ruled out, of course, again. So you're going to see that back three of Eric Martel and Sebastian Sabulinson alongside, well, who knows what Kwasniok has in store for us. But those problems are nothing compared when you look at the problems facing the Wolfsburg defensive ranks. We, of course, due to the injury to Koulirakis, have Moritz Mercedes Jens, who once out of Wolfsburg, in the defensive ranks, and also Denis Vavro, the Slovak, who he just simply doesn't want to be there. I think he wants to return to his home country and slap minors. Lots of scandals going on in German football at the moment. I can't take much more of this. I got everything that's going on with HSV and Wolfsburg as well. It's really ruining my joy of the Bundesliga to a certain extent. But in any event, I think that the Wolfsburg central defense is quite weak. This is a home match for Koeln. So I am going to go with a 3-1 victory for Die Geisböcke, based on how weak Wolfsburg are lately, based on the central defensive problems, based on the fullback problems too. I think that Bauer is going to make a very, very stupid move and start Kevin Paredes as his left fullback. That's my projection. So 3-1 for the Cathedral City Club. That's my tip for the curtain raiser.
Yeah, I think it's a fair tip, to be honest, Peter, because Wolfsburg, as you say, they've been pretty awful, really, in recent weeks. Obviously, they got that win over Heidenheim, over St. Pauli, and then the draw against Heidenheim, but then followed that up with a horrendous performance, really, at Mainz. And this was a run where they were hoping to pick up quite a few points and get away from that bottom three. But as it happens, if they lose this game, they're going to be in probably a worse position than when those 4 games started, really, because, you'd want a lot more than 4 points out of those 4 fixtures. So it is an important game for the Wolves. Also for Koeln as well, because, okay, they got the win over Mainz, but let's be honest, the form has kind of nosedived since the last time these two sides met, when obviously it was a much Koeln had kind of flown out of the blocks, hadn't they, at that time? They're still 10th at the minute, but they are only just above that kind of pack, that relegation threatened pack, on 20 points. And if they lose this game, they will go below the Wolves as well for this match. So I'm going to stick with you, Peter. I'm going to go for a 2-1 Koeln win. I just think, under the lights in the Cathedral City, it should be enough to get them over the line in this one. I think, the likes of Almala, who's obviously lost his form a little bit in recent weeks, to be honest. And I think, the likes of Bulter, Kaminski haven't been quite as good in recent weeks. Obviously, they're probably going to be looking at your boy Ragnar Acher to bang in a goal or two like he did against Mainz. But I could see them just nicking this one 2-1. So let's move on to the Saturday games then. So what have we got in store for you then? We've got an interesting looking fixture in Frankfurt, in Manhattan, as they say, between Frankfurt and Leverkusen in the game. So, interesting fixture. Peter, what are we looking, scores on the doors for this one?
Well, this would be the first time that I've actually spoken with you in depth since the Topmüller sacking. It occurred on the day that we did our AFCON watch-along. So I'd be curious to get your thoughts on this. My thoughts on this, of course, I wrote a very long feature on this. I really, the way that Eintracht von Main have crumbled with the Schlafwagenfußball, which is more or less contingent with their very, very boring Im Herzen von Europa anthem. The one that got us in a little bit of trouble, did it? So, at the moment, we have Frankfurt playing very much like that anthem. Eintracht von Main. Not Eintracht Main, weil wir dich alle lieben. Schieß doch Tor, den Kasten rein. Anyways, it's very intriguing what's going on with Frankfurt at the moment. Their summer signings are two German Moroccan buddies, Ebnou Talib and Eshkouyab. Ebnou Talib is, of course, hurt, but I think that both of them have made an impact. Of course, when it comes to Eintracht, the attack is not what the problem is. It is this terrible defending, in which they conceded. They lost against Tottenham last night, but they managed to avoid conceding 3 goals for the first time in the current 2026 calendar year, which is something of an accomplishment.
That is true.
Very true. But attacking-wise, I really do like Arnaud Kaliumendo, the Forest loanee, who has come in. As a matter of fact, scored in both of his Bundesliga matches. He was not registered for the Champions League, and that's one of the reasons why Frankfurt are aus im Herzen von Europa, if you will. But so what do we make of this team? This will be the 4th fixture under the interim coaching regime of Dennis Schmidt and Alexander Meyer. There are rumors that this Riera character, who is more of a Premier League guy, you could probably tell me more about him than I've been able to find out. Quite the journeyman. Frankfurt are on the verge of hiring a non-German speaking head coach, and it has been very, very long, in my recollection, since this happened. You may think, Pep Guardiola or Carlo Ancelotti. No, I mean, when they went to Bayern, they were appointed 6 months in advance so that they had time to do a crash course in German. And so now we're bringing in a Spaniard, whom, to my knowledge, has no knowledge of German. The last time I recall German football club, top-tier football club, hiring a trainer who does not speak German was actually Steve McLaren in Wolfsburg. So, I mean, morbid curiosity, voyeurism. I think people should really, really tune into Frankfurt now, because what's going on is interesting. They have an excellent attack. They're very, very strong on the counter. They're working to get the defense back and compact, and there's going to be this huge, interesting experiment with a foreign coach with very little top-tier experience, actually no top-tier experience, and not much German language. So I don't know what to say. I think that in this case, Leverkusen are simply the superior side. I worked out a little tactical projection earlier today. I'm projecting a 3-2-4-1. I think I'm going to go with Poku Kofane, Palacios, and Autor back in the lineup, and that gives, particularly on the flank positions, Leverkusen an excellent counterattacking threat. And this Eintracht defense can remain compact for a time, but it invariably always falls apart, generally about 30 to 35 minutes in. So another 3-1 scoreline for me in this one, and I will go 3-1 to the guests in this case, to Leverkusen. And poor Eintracht, they just keep having home fixtures and they keep losing them. So now I of course want to hear your thoughts on our Eintracht, on our Rhein-Main Adler. You know that Mark and we have our little Philadelphia Adler connection, but we have the Rhein-Main Adler as well. So what do you think, Mark?
Yeah, I think it's not looking good for them at all. I mean, I think we discussed it on Monday evening with Rory. I mean, to think just how good they were at the start of the season when just everything seemed to be going right for them. You know, they had the likes of Chanozun, Chaibi, Larson, you know, just so many, Johnny B as well, when he came back into the side. They just had so many positives to the side. And to say it's fallen apart is an understatement, really. I mean, they've still not solved the goalkeeping issues. It was another terrible goalkeeper performance from Santos against Hoffenheim the other night. And it's just not working out at all for them. I mean, what can you do? I mean, obviously, Bundesliga teams don't have an endless pit of money. I mean, normally you would say, okay, go and buy a better goalkeeper, basically, you know, because neither Zeta nor Santos have been anywhere near good enough this season. That's also led to the defense just basically, you know, capsizing effectively in recent weeks. You know, Robin Koch continues to make errors constantly. You know, Teat has just lost his head altogether. Namdi Collins has had a poor season. Nath Brown has had a poor season. It's just that defense, and now the attack has also started to fall apart. As you say, I do like Calimendo. I think he's a potential good player. Chanozun is still doing the occasional good thing, but not as often as he was at early season.
Well, unfortunately, Azun is hurt, so the bad news keeps raining down in Mainhatten.
Yeah, it's not looking good at all for the side. So, having said that, though, I think Leverkusen also have a few. They've not started 2026 great either, even though they got an impressive 3-0 win over Villarreal. But let's be honest, if you watch that game, Villarreal just didn't care, basically. They just didn't. You could see they were just wanting to get out of there from the first minute. So I wouldn't read too much into that 3-0 win. So I'm actually going to go for a 2-2 here. I think this is going to be the case of two underperforming sides who both got talent going forward, but are just not doing enough at the minute to win big games of football, in my eyes. And I would be more leaning towards Leverkusen, but I'm still going to go for a 2-2 because Frankfurt have still been scoring goals this year. Let's not forget that. Apart from against Tottenham, but obviously they've been shipping bagfuls. But Leverkusen are also just not really filling me with that much hope at the minute. I don't know why. So I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. There should be some decent goals in there anyway for this one.
If Frankfurt can avoid conceding 3 goals for just the second time in this calendar year, that would be that's ridiculous. They conceded 3 goals in the first 3 Bundesliga fixtures, the Champions League fixture, and the subsequent one. That was 5 matches on the bounce that they conceded 3 goals. It was insane.
It is mad, yeah. And to be honest, it could easily have been 3 against Tottenham as well the other night. Yeah. Anyway, RB Leipzig Mainz, an interesting fixture coming in. Obviously, Leipzig come into this game on the back of that devastating draw in a game that they completely dominated from first minute to last, really, against St. Pauli. And then David Raum had that inexplicable slip, really, didn't he? Like, talk about a bad time to slip, and he completely ran into the Pauli front man, and it was a deserved penalty. But just the way things have been going recently for Leipzig, they just can't get the wins over the line for some reason. And this was an unacceptable draw, really, against a Pauli side who really they should have beaten easily in that game. I think obviously Diomande got his latest goal, you know, clearly one of the main assets in the Bundesliga nowadays, the Ivorian wide man. Got a little bit of a lucky strike, but another goal for him. Yeah, as for Mainz, obviously they come in the back of a really one of their best performances of the season, an easy win really against Wolfsburg, where I think they had an XG of around about 4.5 in that match. That is an extremely high XG. I think the likes of Hollerbach are playing a little bit better. I think Philip Tietz has actually come in and done quite well for them. He obviously missed that penalty last week, but I think he's actually done quite a good job, and he's brought an energy to them that they lacked in the first half of the season for me. So he could be the man to form a partnership with Hollerbach and finally get the best out of the former Union man up top. I would imagine Amiri will start this game again, obviously after starting on the bench last week and scoring the penalty in that 3-1 win over Wolfsburg. We know that Mainz have shown capabilities to beat and challenge top teams in the past. Urs Fischer's only lost 1 of his 7 games in charge, and that was that kind of second half collapse against Koeln when they were actually by far the better side in the first half of that one as well. So it's been a very good start under Urs Fischer. There's been a lot of draws in there, but there's also been a couple of wins too, and they have slowly started to climb off the foot of the table. So I'm actually going to go for a 2-1 Leipzig win here. I still feel as though RBL should be able to get back over the line. I think Mainz will push them close, and I could see maybe it being a late winner, but I do think the RB will get back onto the winning track with probably Diomande and potentially Romelu scoring the 2 goals. Peter?
Well, in this particular instance, we have a lot of moving components to take into account. And I drove myself slightly crazy today trying to figure out all of the personnel choices. You know, in the case of Mainz, Nadim Amiri is back. He was out last week. The win against Wolfsburg, I don't have too many takeaways from that, based on the fact that Wolfsburg are a very, very bad team. And in terms of Tietz, I actually haven't been impressed at all. I mean, the only thing that Tietz is... Well, he's made Benedikt Hollebach better by standing beside him and looking worse. So that is done.
That's a good quote.
But anyways, so we have Dominic Kor suspended. Gee, imagine that. That's not the first or last.
Another suspension for Dominic.
Yeah, of course. Anyway, so I moved Muene, the former Kaiserslautern guy, on the left wing back role, and then Widmer over to the right. I got Da Costa in the central defense there, alongside Stefan Posch. Hey, isn't that cool that he's back in German football? You know, Mainz, I think they have a real fighting chance here, and one of the reasons is the big personnel news on the Leipzig front is that Christoph Baumgartner not available. And a lot of Leipzig's success this season, and I really thought they were excellent against St. Pauli, as you correctly pointed out. That was a most unfair result from their perspective. Has to do with this Austrian midfield triangle of Seiwald, Baumgartner, and Saba Schlager. And I was excited to watch it once again in action during the most recent league makeup fixture. I think at some point, for reasons beyond my control, I slipped into an Arnold Schwarzenegger accent while watching it. You know, I was just sitting there like, Christoph Baumgartner, he's fantastic. And Saba Schlager, he is the midfield cleaver and all. Anyway, so what do we do without Baumgartner? Unfortunately for Mainz, I'm thinking Banzuzi comes in there and does a great job. I do think that with Stefan Posch back in the defensive ranks, the Mainz defense will hold, and it will be a slender 1-0 victory for the German Red Bulls, which is, I think, exactly the scoreline that we had in the Hinrunde. Yeah, as I said, drove myself just a little bit crazy with all the personnel things here, but after studying it and thinking about it, that's my tip.
Yeah. So Werder Bremen, Borussia Moenchengladbach. Obviously, this is a team where, I mean, we talk about talking about managers under pressure at the minute. You know, we've got Horst Steffen. I mean, how is he still in a job basically at this moment? It just feels as though he must be a dead man walking basically, as far as I'm concerned. He's been terrible really the entire season. Obviously, they had that slight little pickup, didn't they, after the poor start, when the likes of Sugawara it looked like they were going to be half decent, you know, Koulibaly, but they barely ever seem to score, let alone really create these days. And I watched quite a lot of the midweek game against Hoffenheim, and they were just second best. Hoffenheim were able to win in third gear, to be honest, in that game. It wasn't Hoffenheim's best display we've seen in recent times. And they also played most of the second half with 10 men, and they still barely created anything. I saw Njimba was linked away, I think, surprisingly, somewhat to Napoli as well. I mean, he doesn't seem good enough to play at that level from what I've seen. But nothing's really going right for Werder at the minute. I mean, for me, Horst Steffen has got to be, as I said before, he's a dead man walking. I think if they lose this game, I don't see him staying in a job beyond the 20th game, to be honest, because they have to at least get a point and ideally a win, really, because they are coming into this game in 15th place, precariously hanging above the relegation zone, like where many people predicted them to finish at the start of the season. As for this game, Gladbach, from what I've seen, Gladbach fans are also starting to get a little bit tired of Polanski as well at the minute. I mean, obviously he made that great impact initially in the interim when he got those 3 back-to-back wins, but he started off this year with a 4-0 win over Augsburg, which was a good start. But since then, it's just all gone wrong, basically. They lost 5-1 at Hoffenheim. They had that somehow escape Hamburg with a draw when they should have lost that game. And then they were well beaten at home by Stuttgart last week as well. So, nothing's going right for either of these sides, really, at the minute, to be honest. So that's why I predicted a 0-0 draw in this one, actually. I just don't see it being a good game. I don't think it's going to do well for either managers. I don't think Polanski's quite at the point where he's going to get the boot at the moment, but Tabakovic obviously missed that penalty last week to compound his decline in form, I would say, after the good run that he had either side of Christmas. For me, this is going to be a pretty poor game. It's going to be a 0-0 draw. I think the only bright spark in this game is going to be Romano Schmid, but even he's not going to be good enough to spark a goal in this one. Peter?
Well, yes, as you correctly pointed out, we're dealing with 2 very, very bad teams, 2 teams in awful form. And my initial reaction was a 0-0 draw as well. Incidentally, hello to our friend DM, who is if my memory serves correctly, is a Gladbach supporter. So I want to deliver some good news for Gladbach here, who have, as you have pointed out, have been very, very poor since the turn of the calendar year. They've scored that 1 goal against Hoffenheim, and apart from that, the only goals that they've scored in this entire calendar year have been in that Augsburg rout, which that was a funny game. It wasn't really so much that Gladbach came out swinging. It was just that Augsburg fell apart on a number of different levels very, very early on. So that result you can sort of chalk off. If you look at the Hinrunde scoreline, it was actually Werder Bremen 4-0 over in what was Gerardo Seoane's last match. So when you look at this match and you look at how it's projected to be a 0-0 draw based on recent form, you try to convince yourself, okay, how can this not be the case? How can we actually get something exciting out of this? And the answer is, well, first of all, the Bremen back line is completely devastated by injuries. I think that Friedel is coming back, but Pieper also remains out. So you're probably looking at, I don't know if you're looking at a back 3 or a back 4, but I mean, you've got, you're going to have to rely on players that they were trying to sell in this current transfer window, like Malatini, like Linen, like maybe Olivier Demont as well. This is going to be a ramshackle 11 that's put through by Horst Steffen. The fact that Jovan Milosevic, the Stuttgart loanee, has succumbed to this goddamn Werder Bremen loan curse, exemplified by players, such as, we've got Andre Silva last year. We have, Naby Keita wasn't on loan, but this is just another instance of Bremen picking up a complete flop and calling it a score. Rafael Santos Borre, of course, Victor Boniface. absolutely chide you, Mark, for taking Victor Boniface out for late night McDonald's binges. You and the goddamn goal. That's you, Mark. When Victor Boniface calls you up at 3 o'clock in the morning and says he wants to go to McDonald's, you say no. You went ahead and did it anyway.
That is true. That is
so
true.
I don't know. I mean, Milosevic got off to an excellent start in that match against Frankfurt, and Bremen, but that was Frankfurt. So again, does that really count? I just pulled my hair out trying to think of a way that we're going to get something other than a 1-0 draw here, or a 0-0 draw here. And what I'm going to go with basically is that based on the state of the Werder defensive ranks and the fact that Horst Stefan's team are just absolutely listing to port, we're going to get a goal out of Tabakovic, who still is he still the third leading goal scorer in the Bundesliga?
I believe he is. Yeah, he's got 9 goals so far.
Right. So I'm going to go 1-0 in favor of Gladbach in this instance. And I think that will, I think this is my applying some overthinking / wishful thinking to this match. I think that 0-0 is actually a great tip, but I'll go 1-0 for Gladbach.
Yeah, fair enough. So yeah, Augsburg, St. Pauli, Peter. I mean, interesting little fixture there. Go on. I'll let you lead out while I've led out in the last 2. So what do you think for this one?
Well, I mean, you're the one who's riding high after this most unexpected Bayern result. And all of a sudden, Manuel Baum looks like some sort of a genius instead of the beyond mediocre coach that he is. Of course, with St. Pauli, that was a very, very interesting fixture that we were discussing earlier with Leipzig. There was some good fight back from the Kiez kicker, and in the end, you could see that it was kind of almost justified that they were able to bring that out. With Augsburg, I mean, so they get Gregoric back, but has he really done much since he's gotten back?
Nothing at all.
Right. Claude Maurice is, of course, in better form. I mean, that's a great story that Arthur Chavez, the Hoffenheim loanee, came in and made something work. But I don't know. I mean, you think that something like that is going to repeat? Meanwhile, we have some interesting going-ons there at St. Pauli. I never really understood why people, including yourself, wanted to sack Alexander Blessin. I think he does do a halfway decent job with the talent that he's had available, even though there's been some questionable personnel selections. But and he was even linked with the Frankfurt job. Who comes up with this stuff? What idiot, wrote that rumor? That made absolutely no sense whatsoever. I will mention that Ricky J. Jones set the current season speed record. We've been waiting on him. He is the world record holder for fastest ever clocked footballer from his days there at Peterborough United. Not quite as much fun, the speed demon race in the Bundesliga this season as it was last season when we had Sir Lord Conte and Gerrit Holtmann, the Filipino typhoon, sort of bashing records back and forth. And it was actually Jean Mateo Bahoya who came out on top and holds the current Bundesliga record. So what do we say? I think we're going to have Ricky J. Jones up top. And I think that Blessin is going to make the smart move and start Sinani instead of Irvine or Rasmussen in the midfield there. He'll move Schmidt. What do we call him, Mark?
I think you are right that the German commentators always call him Schmidt. Yeah, so let's call him Schmidt.
Okay.
It still sounds very, very weird to call Smith Schmidt, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, and I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but I think that Augsburg, I mean, their home form this season has been awful, and so much of that had to do with Sandro Wagner. You and I attended back-to-back losses this year. You attended the second loss. So, yeah, I feel like there's another disappointment brewing at the VfK Arena, and I'm going to go against the grain here and tip St. Pauli for a 2-1 upset away victory.
Oh, that's a controversial one. Yeah. Yeah, I was thinking long and hard about this one. Obviously, I'm still basking in that. I mean, I was actually full of flu when it happened, so it was more of something that brightened my day rather than really made my day, I would say. But it was definitely a result that was, wow, it stood off the page, and it was beautiful while it lasted. But yeah, I can understand why people are reluctant to think that Augsburg are in the corner because as you say, I mean, most of the season they've been poor. Let's not get around it, you know. Performances have slowly improved under Baum. Obviously, they got off to that 2-0 win over Leverkusen, and then the 2 wins they've had have been against Bayern and Bayern, basically. So, yeah, some would say they were a bit unlucky not to win against Union, but I suppose they only had themselves to blame. You've got to be seeing that game out when they were 1-0 up against 10 men and conceded a very scrappy goal late on in that game. And then against Freiburg too, they were 2-0 up and could easily have lost that game in the last 15 minutes or so. So things still aren't perfect. Pauli put in as you say, a spirited display against Leipzig. They started off very well, and obviously Ricky J. Jones had a few chances. Actually, as we always imagine, really with him, his finishing isn't as impressive as his speed. Unfortunately, I think he missed 2 good chances early on, and then obviously eventually Pauli were able to grab a result due to the Martin Kars penalty. Yeah, what can you say? For me, Augsburg go into the game as favourites, and they've got to keep up what they did last week. For me, if I were Baum, I'd just literally throw out the same lineup. As far as I know, they are able to do that. They've got to maintain what they can. I wouldn't overcomplicate it if I were Baum. You know, I would keep Chavez in there. I think he had a pretty much a famous debut, really. I think Kader has done okay as a number 9, even though, to be honest, the whole season, Augsburg have been so badly missing a striker. Oh, my God. Like, first of all, they go with Koeln. It doesn't work. Then they tried to bring Tietz back in for a few games. It didn't work. Ascende, I think, started a couple as well. It didn't work. And now they've gone with Kader, who's obviously not a traditional number 9, but has done okay, but I'm not going to say he's done better than okay, really. I think the key is the form of Claude Maurice, though. He's back to his best. I think Fellhauer has been good. Giannoulis is back in the team as well. He's missed quite a lot of time through injury this season, which has been a big blow for the FCR. No surprise to see him getting an excellent assist for the winning goal for Masengo. So I'm a little bit more confident for my boys. I think if Baum doesn't try to overcomplicate it, which sometimes German trainers can be guilty of that, overcomplicating the tactics a little bit. I think if he just goes and rolls with it, they'll have too much for this Pauli side. Because let's not forget, Pauli ran themselves into the ground to get that point midweek. So there might be a few tired bodies. They might have to make a few changes as well in there. So I'm going to go the opposite of you, Peter. I'm going to go for a 2-1 FCR win. Come on. Yeah. It's anyway, let's move on. So what else have we got for you? We've got a bumper Saturday for you really this week, haven't we? We've got a lot of fixtures. So the next one is Hoffenheim Union Berlin, an interesting looking fixture. I mean, Hoffenheim, as much as some people would hate to say it, they have been the gift that keep giving this season. And they're just a winning machine, effectively, at the moment. They won 12 out of the 19 games, losing only 4 matches. This year, they've won every game so far. They won 4 out of 4 in 2026. And they just look like a side who are just dominating matches. Like everything that Ilse does right now is working. Obviously, they went with Maxi Murstedt, which was a shock against Frankfurt, and he scored a goal. They've dropped Traore for a couple of games, but he looks ready to come back in now. Grisha Prömel is scoring. Even Prass got a screaming goal against Werder Bremen midweek, and he's not done much good since he came to the club, truth be told. But that was a hell of a strike to open the scoring. Obviously, they will be without Burger in this game, which is a big miss because he has been probably overall their player of the season, really, when you consider all things. He's been outstanding. He's going to miss due to the red card against Werder. However, there are men they can bring in. They can bring in the likes of Damar, who's not started that much this season, and he's a quality asset as well. There's just so much quality in that side. They can bring Prömel into his position as well, along Abdallah, who if they need to as well. so many options in that side. Lempele is still doing pretty well up top. Obviously, defensively, we got Kabak is back in form for the first time in years, it seems, to be honest. But he's been doing well. As for Union, I mean, their season is kind of drifting into a bit of obscurity, truth be told, which might not be a bad thing because a lot of people tip them to be relegated at the beginning of the season. That's not going to happen, but they're not going to be challenging European places either this season. I think it's going to be a slap-bang mid-table mediocrity season for them. I think one of their problems is that their attack force is just too inconsistent. Like some games we see Illich, Burke, Anza have really good combinations, and other games they're pretty quiet, truth be told. No less than last week against Dortmund in what was a pretty meek defeat in many ways, 3-0 home defeat. So yeah, I'm going to side with the TSG again. TSG in this match. I just feel as though they're too good, effectively. So I've gone for a 3-1 TSG win in this one for Hoffenheim. So Peter.
Yeah, much to my chagrin, you're correct about everything when it comes to Hoffenheim. Is or can do no wrong. The Wouter Berger suspension will affect the Hoffenheim's play slightly in the beginning, I think, but not by much. Toure, of course, has not been starting because he's been out on AFCON duty. And Morstedt. I always loved Morstedt. It was just an absolute privilege to watch him play during the match. I was covering the Frankfurt match last weekend. Kabak is back. Ozan Kabak is, good Lord, he hit the post twice, I think, last weekend. And so he's very, very hungry and ready to go. And you mentioned Pross, an absolute transfer flop who is now starting in attack. For Hoffenheim. It is ridiculous. It's an embarrassment of riches. They have everything they want. I still don't like them. Even after the Kramaric ceremonies there a couple weeks back at the Prazer Arena in Sinsheim, I found reasons to be pissed off. I'm like, why the hell aren't you guys honoring Sebastian Rudy or Pablo Kadajarbek? Well, they did honor Kadajarbek, but they didn't give him a mural. Yeah, you're right. I'll go 4-2 here. I will mention that, Stefan Baumgart's Goldenes Händchen, the golden touch, what do you translate that as? The Midas touch in English, has still been amazing. Scoring goals for Union is not the problem. The thing is that you can't score goals as a starter. If you come off the bench, you're going to score for Union. True. And that's, he's got people like, Marin Lujibicic scoring. He's got, he had Alex Kral factoring in again. He actually might stay with him after a transfer falls through, outgoing transfer falls through. So, yeah, I think they're good. Union are good for 2 goals from their substitutes here after Hoffenheim rush out to a 4-0 lead, and it'll be a 4-2 win for the hosts.
Interesting tip. So yeah, we've got an interesting finale as well for the weekend. We've got obviously Hamburg, Bayern Munich. So go on, I'm going to let Peter lead out on this one. What are your tips for that?
Oh, well, what idiot decided that this should be the top spiel again? It was already the top spiel earlier this season in England. As soon as Bayern scored their first 2 goals, pretty much all of us were like, the hell with this. We're not watching this. And this one's not worth watching either. I think, didn't we go through historically Hamburg versus Bayern, including that 8-0 defeat that led to Hamburg throwing a free grill fest for their fans at the Volkspark?
Yeah, something like that.
It's and Hamburg are in total disarray now. I was talking about the scandals at the beginning of this podcast when I was talking about Dennis Vavro and his slapping incident back there in Slovakia. Yeah, talk about scandals. Gee, I can't, what is going on with HSV? I have my FC Kaiserslautern hero, Stefan Kunst, acting like a right damn fuel. I've got Jean-Luc Dompe driving with a blood alcohol content of 1.4. Good Lord. As if that street race 3 years ago in which he ran to a bus wasn't enough for him. And everything is going wrong for HSV at this moment. We had that terrible Stadt derby last Friday night, the 0-0, in which Luka Vuskovic lost his shit, if you want me to say that. We have Damian Downs back in the Bundesliga and just looking genuinely awful. up there as a striker. I mean, it's I don't know. It's another 6-0 victory from Bayern. It's another reaction piece. Joshua Kimmich, very happy that we showed a reaction to the Augsburg defeat. I'll try to cover Company's presser afterwards. Hopefully, he makes some snide remarks about beer or Edin Dzeko or something. But I mean, I don't think we have a football match here at all. I mean, it's 6-0 victory for Bayern.
Yeah, to be honest, it also stopped the page of a game where, Bayern are going to win this comfortably. First of all, it is on the back of one of their famous defeats in the league. We all know what normally happens. But as you say, it's against the Hamburg side who have just aren't offering much at the minute. And once again, relegation candidates after looking like they were looking quite comfortable just before Christmas. But a poor start to the year has really kind of knocked them back down into being candidates. And this game probably isn't going to help their cause whatsoever. And I'm not going to go quite as many as 6-0, Peter, but I've gone for a 4-0 Bayern win here. I can't see Hamburg scoring because they've not really looked like scoring the whole year, to be honest, have they? And aside from Vuskovic, he's the only one that really looks like doing anything at the minute. So, I've gone for a 4-0 FC Bayern win here. So let's move on to Sunday. Obviously, two teams playing in Europe, coming up against each other as well. Two Europa League sides. We've got I think we say this every single time these two teams meet. It's technically it's a Baden-Württemberg derby, but really it's more like a kind of, Baden versus Schwabia, isn't it, derby, this one. Most people wouldn't classify it as like a kind of, friendly derby by any means, really. But let's have a look at this one. So Stuttgart, Freiburg. I mean, for Stuttgart, the stars really are aligning for them at the minute. They look a very good side. I think, Dennis Undav is just on such scintillating form at the minute, and he just can't do any wrong. For me, he's at the same level now as that year when he was on loan, when Stuttgart finished Vizemeister in that brilliant season when they played such good football. And actually, I think the whole team is on a similar level to that at the minute, to be honest. I think this is the best Stuttgart we've seen in the last 18 months, in my eyes, what we've seen so far in 2026. I think, the results speak for themselves, really. Apart from the 1-1 against Union, the other performances have been stellar, really. Obviously thrashing Leverkusen on their own backyard 4-1, then that excellent 3-2 win over Frankfurt, and then destroying Gladbach last week 3-0 in a game where they just cruised through long periods of it, really, after getting the first goal. We got so many good things going on. Nate is just still on form as well. He's been one of the most improved players of the season. Defensively, they've looked really good as well. Ramon Hendricks is a man who's been catching my eye recently. Anyway, he's been really good. I think we're seeing the likes of Stiller back close to his best as well. Freiburg, it's not quite as impressive, to be honest, for them. I think they're just kind of like, I would say that the whole season they've just been drifting along in the league. Obviously, in the Europa League, it's been a different story. They've been very, very good in the Europa League. And part of me thinks that they are prioritizing the Europa League this year. There's a lot of money in that competition. Perhaps they see it as the kind of tournament that can go to the quarters or even the semi-finals and get like a real pot full of cash there on the back of that, and maybe try and, bring in a bit more talent next season. But as for the league form, they've been, underwhelming, I would say, largely. Even though they're 7th, which is not bad at all, but performances have been nowhere near as good as the results. But we know that Freiburg are a side that can grind out results, and they did that against Koeln last week as well, didn't they? I didn't think they were particularly great in that game, but they do win games, so that's what they do. But unfortunately for their fans, they're not going to win this game. This is going to be Stuttgart's day. I just think they're a much better team at the moment, and I've gone for a 3-1 home win in this one. Peter?
Well, here so much hinges on what's going on in the Europa League this very evening. Both of these teams are in action presently. Stuttgart are winning 2-1 against Gerardo Seoane's young boys band. Now, Julian Schuster has rotated heavily in Freiburg's match away at Lille whereas Sebastian Hoeneß has just gone ahead with what's largely his best 11. I don't think that matters too terribly much because Stuttgart, of course, have the depth. But Undav and Demir are starting in a 4-2-3-1 for whatever that is worth. And sometimes Undav he did have a slight little form dip. He's off to a fantastic 2026, and as you say, he's in scintillating form. But there have been a couple of occasions in which he's turned in below average performances. Freiburg, I would like to say that I have Igor Matanovic fever, if you want to use the German word. And he has been rotated out this evening so that Junior Adamo can get the start up front. So it's quite clear that Schuster is clearly playing for the Bundesliga fixture this weekend. And he is doing so in the hopes of catching Stuttgart off guard. And I think that he might. I think that we're going to see a very entertaining match here with Matanovic back in the lineup. Matanovic scored a brace against Stuttgart in the Hinrunde fixture. And I can't wait to see him score again. So I'm going for a 2-2 draw in this instance.
Yeah, good tip. Interesting tip as well. Yeah. So, yeah, let's have a look at the final game of the weekend. Obviously the curtain raise, which is probably one that's not getting too many people excited at the moment. Obviously, Dortmund versus Heidenheim. What can you say about this game? I mean, Dortmund just doing Dortmund things, really. I mean, obviously, they should beat, they win. That's been how it has been most of the season. Obviously, 2 weeks ago against Pauli, they were extremely lucky to win in their last home game in the league. I mean, that was, literally a last-second penalty, basically, after our boy Ricky J. Jones made the foul as well. But it's been a weird season for Dortmund because on one side, the points tally is really good. You can't doubt the points tally. I mean, in other years, they'd be much closer to the league. They've won 12 out of the 90 games. They've only lost one. They got 42 points from 19 games, which is like, 2.2, 2.3 points per game, which is a very good ratio, really, over 19 games. But obviously, fans are underwhelmed. You read a lot of stuff on the internet about the fans are not really that happy with Kovac's football. They've been a little bit underwhelmed by Champions League performances this season, which have fallen much below. It's been one of those rare years where Dortmund have served up a lot better in the Champions League, in the league, than they have in the Champions League this season. And I think they only finished 17th, so they didn't even finish in the top half of that table, around about mid-table in the Champions League, which is not normally we're used to seeing them in the top 8, even top 10 minimum. So they fell below there, but this is a game that they'll look at as a comfortable win, and it's hard to see anything other. I mean, Heidenheim, obviously, I think this is finally going to be the year we say goodbye to the FCH. Third time lucky in some people's eyes, really. Obviously, last season they stayed up due to it being quite a weak bottom end of the table. This year, it's a little bit stronger in that part of the table, I would say, with teams. You're not going to be able to stay up with what was it, 26 points they got from the season. That's not going to be enough this season. And they're going to struggle to even get 26 this season, to be honest, after getting only 19 through, only getting 13 through 19 games, I should say. So for me, there's just not enough in this FCH side. Obviously, we had that period when Schimmer was banging in a few goals, but that stopped, unfortunately, now. What can you say? I mean, it's just a very limited side. They need luck, really, to win games. Maybe a Marvin Pieringer overhead kick like a couple of weeks ago as well. But I think that was, unfortunately for them, a once a season kind of happening, or maybe once every 5 seasons happening. So, yeah, I've gone for a 3-0 Dortmund here. I can just see them cruising through this one as the kind of finale of the weekend. Peter?
I'll go 3-0. I mean, with Dortmund, I say that it's not a very good team, and they don't play an awful lot of exciting football. This might be the worst Dortmund team that I've personally seen since 2021-22. I think. I mean, it just shows you how imbalanced the Bundesliga is at the moment. And they produced some nice stories. I mean, Nico Schlotterbeck getting back into set-piece action last weekend and scoring that goal. That's kind of a cool story because he was the corner taker before he got injured. But they kept him off of set-piece play as he rehabbed from that injury and came back because they didn't want him banging up or overstraining himself. But that's about the extent that you can say that Dortmund is interesting. I mean, of course, we had another scandal with this damn team, Karim Adeyemi's mystery box, or Cole Campbell or Julian Duranville not giving enough in training, or Sebastian Kehl yelling at somebody on the sidelines. Or I didn't quite care for this Anselmino story this week. I thought, how Chelsea recalled him. They exercised this early loan recall option unwarned, and then Dortmund releases this video of him crying. I mean, what? What kind of petty nonsense is this? But anyways, so it should be a comfortable win for Dortmund, and Dortmund fans, they could be satisfied with the fact that they're going to clearly get second place in the table this season, or they, depending on where Hoffenheim might take it away from them. But yeah, it's just a boring season for Dortmund beyond what's going on off the pitch, and that's just the way that it is. With Heidenheim, speaking of boring, I like to inject a little bit of humor into these things, and Heidenheim has provided us with some nice jokes, whether it was Kevin Müller falsely going to the MLS, or Stefan Schimmer and Gundelfingen and things like that. I mean, they're hard to remain interesting in because even their interesting players are not playing. So I would have to say that, and that applies to the Conte brothers. They reunited the Conte brothers, and I'm thinking to myself, this is great. We'll have Sir Lord and Christian to talk about. And I was doing a piece on this, and obviously when I was researching it, I needed to figure out what their middle names were, and I thought that was kind of a cool story because Sir Lord's middle name is Calvin. So Sir Lord Calvin Conte. I mean, that is so, you don't get more British than that. Christian's middle name is Joe. So Christian, you got Sir Lord Calvin Conte, and you got Christian Joe Conte, which sounds like a freaking name from rural Alabama where I am. It's like, Christian Joe! How you doing there, brother? Chrissy Joe. But they're not even playing, so there's not much interesting going on in Heidenheim at this moment. I don't, what are we supposed to do here? God. Yeah, I mean, I think that Freiburg, Stuttgart is a good selection to watch on Sunday if you're looking for some German footballing action. Not sure I would tune into Dortmund Hoffenheim. I think Dortmund go up 2-0 early and then just go on cruise control the rest of the match. And that's all we got.
Yeah, and there you go. That is all we got. That's all we got for Matchweek 20 predictions. So yeah, thanks a lot to Peter once again for giving us his fantastic insights. Don't forget to follow us as well on X, Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky. Also, don't forget that we're not only a YouTube channel, we're also a podcast as well. So check out Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Okay. So yeah, thanks a lot, guys. It was an absolute pleasure. Thanks to Peter again, as always. Thanks to DM for commenting, and Rory, of course, as well. And we will see you again. Rory and Rune will join you again tomorrow morning for the fantasy show. So thanks a lot, guys. It was a pleasure. See you then. Bye-bye. Ciao, ciao.